There we go.
There we go. Hello to Lorna Dea. How are you today?
Hi, yeah, I'm really good. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for the chat to you again today. So, can you tell me roughly how long have you been a singer-songwriter for?
Officially, probably about 10 years now. Unofficially, always doodling in my notepad when I was a teenager, just writing away to little lyrics and things like that. But officially, probably about 10 years now.
So, what was it like going to the recording studio when you very first your debut single back in 2016?
What recording my first single, what was it like? Oh, it was incredible, because it was the first time I'd actually put any of my songs into like a formal kind of recording process. So I went into the studio not really knowing what to expect, having a producer there, sound engineer there, and I also had a full band for that day. So they weren't my band, they were, musicians that I'd never met before. But it was such a lovely experience because they were all so skilled at what they did. They all just immediately got the brief and just were really excited to be there as part of like a debut recording, which was really lovely. They're all local musicians from around Leicester, Birmingham, and Coventry. So it was a really nice experience. I think I learned a lot in that experience because I think I learned what my own voice was worth in terms of, my say in studio. Um, I think I'd worked with a few people before and like, I kind of almost was like, oh, their idea is probably better than mine, so we'll go with that idea. But actually, in that scenario, I don't know, I think I got a bit bossy. So I was just like, actually, I don't like how you just played that. Can you do that again? And by the end of the day, they were like, oh God, she really knows her own mind. So I think I think that I learned a lot. And now whenever I go into a studio setting, I have a really strong vision of what I want to come out of that studio with, in terms of what does the finished product want, what do I want it to say, what do I want it to sound like. So I think, I work with my producer now, and he does say I'm a bit of a challenge to work with, but a welcome challenge because it makes him a better producer. Because I'm very strong-minded in knowing what I want my music to sound like, and I'm not really willing to compromise on that. I might sound a bit diva-ish, but yeah.
So, what was it like recording your debut EP, Comfort Zone?
Oh no, Comfort Zone was my second EP. Um, so Comfort Zone was a very different process again. Comfort Zone was, I went into the studio with just a producer and songwriter, and we co-wrote the songs together. And I think with that EP, it was of a more of like a poppy sound, I think. And that was because of, the person I was working with, the influences that he had in his music and his style of production. Um, it was still very much me, but also a little bit more exploring like the cheesier pop side to my influences, really, rather than the soul side.
So, where do you get your inspiration for songwriting?
From songwriting, oh, inspirations come from everywhere for me. I am a typical kind of airy fairy creative person. So, like, I will be having a walk, and I'll hear bird song, and I'll be like, oh, I really like that melody, and like I'll pick that little bit out. Or I'll be listening to people talking in the queue at Morrison's, and they'll say something and it'll just spark that little bit of inspiration for me, and I'll just write something down in the notes in my phone whilst I'm just in such a normal everyday scenario. And then I revisit it and think, okay, well, what can I build around that phrase that I really liked, that I liked it so much that I wrote it down. Um, and I kind of work from little snippets of everyday life, really, and build a song around that. I definitely write a lot from experience. So if I hear something that someone else says that could be maybe like a hook to a song, or it could be maybe like a strong chorus line, um, I'll always relate it back to how did that make me feel? And is there a scenario in my life where I can relate that topic to? Because I think for me, with songwriting, I very much like it to make sense. I like it to be a story. I like it to be a 3 minute. It has a start, it has a middle, and it has a conclusion. So I understand, not everyone writes in that way, but for me, that is really important. It has to make sense. So, I always try and liken it back to, well, what scenarios have I had in my life that I could relate to it to make it authentic and to make it, I guess, relatable, really.
So, the thing they released called Real Woman.
Yes. Yes, I wrote that song. I was really angry. I had a bit of a toxic relationship, and you know when you feel like people are kind of picking at you and kind of knocking you down, and you're like, well, actually, I'm just being me. I'm just being real. I'm being real with you. Why can't you be real with me? And and that one seems to be the one that people always kind of latch onto online. Like, I'm a real woman. I'm a, I'm real. And I think, you don't know what people are going to enjoy. Um, so yeah, it's strange how something that I write, people attach their own kind of feelings and their own lived experiences to it, and they take it in like it's part of them, which is a really nice thing to see as a songwriter and as an artist, that people really relate to it. It might not be the way that I intended it to be perceived, but people relate to it in their own way, and that, I guess, is the beauty of creating art, because it can be interpreted so many different ways and it's so subjective.
So, continue. It's called about Fake Smile.
Fake a smile. Yeah, I think that is quite a vulnerable song that I wrote. I was going through quite a bad time personally. Obviously, you can probably tell from the lyrics. Um, and I'm the sort of person, even when I'm going through a bad time, I don't always make it clear. It comes out in my music. I'm very much oh, it'll be all right. It's just a bad day, not a bad life kind of person. And obviously everyone goes through things personally. And for me, the way I express how that's affected me is through my music. And, the people closest to me know what's going on. I might not necessarily talk about it online, but the people closest to me know what's going on. And, I'm very much, oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'll say I'm fine, and I'll fake a smile. And 99% of the general public will think, well, she is fine. She's smiling. It's great. Whereas the people behind closed doors that are closest to me will know that that's not always true, and kind of dig a little bit deeper and go, but are you fine? And then that's usually when the exterior cracks. But no, it's that's quite a vulnerable song. I wrote that song, and I never intended to release that song either, um, because I wrote that um, when I was going through quite a difficult time, and it's actually one of my most streamed songs. So I guess there's some beauty and some positivity in releasing them kind of singles that are quite vulnerable, and they might help people in their time of distress or upset, that actually I will get through it, and you know I can fake a smile for a little bit, and I will feel better again.
So, it's in my single that is called Can't Count.
Yeah. Um, Again, I write a lot from personal experiences, and I've had quite a lot of friendships that, as I've kind of progressed with my music career, people don't get it, and people, they don't understand that, you're online, but you're not really online as in like talking, to them. I don't have any personal social media. All my social media is, Lorna Dea. And, if I'm online and I'm posting things about my music, I'm not ignoring them if they're posting on their social media. I'm busy, I'm working, and I think, yeah, there's been a few people that have been like, oh well, you don't talk to me or you don't make time for me. And I'm like, I can't count the amount of times where people have thought something about me and it's not been true. Or I can't count the amount of times that you've made me feel bad for wanting to pursue something that really deep down in my core I feel really passionate about. So I think it was just my way of processing that emotion. I can't count the amount of times that people have come at me or people have thought something about me that hasn't been true. And it does get to you. But again, for me, the way that I express it is through my music. And yeah, that's very much what that song was written about.
That's the best way, I guess.
Absolutely.
So continue to sing a release called Sunshine.
Sunshine. Yeah, this single I actually wrote about one of my friends. Um, she was going through a really difficult time, and she is the human personification of sunshine. Like, she is colorful in all the clothes that she wears. She is one of the nicest people, but really authentically nice. Like, she genuinely cares so much about what other people feel, and so much to her own detriment sometimes. She gives and gives and gives, and she is such a beautiful soul. And it just so happens her favorite color is also yellow. So, I've always said to her, I sometimes call her, I'm like, oh, hello, sunshine, if we message each other and stuff. So she was going through a really rough time. And a bit like me, she's very much like oh, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. But I knew I'm in her close circle and I knew that she wasn't fine. So I just wanted to write a song for her. Um, she knew it was about her. I knew it was about her. And we released it in summer, so other people thought it was just about the sun in the sky and oh, it's lovely. You don't know how much you glow, that kind of thing. But actually, for her, it was, I know you're not feeling your best right now, but you will glow again, and you will be your normal sunny self, and you will get back to where you were. And when I first was working on it and recording it, I did send her like a little audio note, and I was like, I'm working on something. I want to release it, but obviously I just want to make sure that you'd be okay with me releasing it. I obviously won't say it's about you, but I wanted to write this song for you. And she actually messaged me back. She was like, I don't even know what to say. I'm crying right now. So yeah, it came from a really authentic place of seeing someone else going through struggles that I know I've been through, and really trying to carry on as though nothing's wrong, and well, I'll get past it, and and just, she's a really close friend and she really means a lot to me. So to be able to put that into a song for her, and it was kind of my gift to her as our friendship, really. And yeah, it's a really special song for me, Sunshine.
So continue more about sing a release called this year called Would You Stay?
Would you stay? Yes. This is my last release. So I released this. This is the first single that I released in 2025, and I I've played this a handful of times, and recently the way I introduced this song is it's probably the most vulnerable song I've ever written. I thought Fake a Smile was the most vulnerable song that I'd ever written, but this one topped it. Um, this song is about everyone's got them kind of parts of them that they don't want people to see, the ugly parts, the things where people go through, real struggles, mental health, or, bereavement or anything like that. And I I've been with my partner for such a long time now, but there was a time when I didn't want him to see them ugly parts. I didn't want him to see, me struggle because would he want me still? Would he want the ugly truth or would he run a mile? So this song was really around, that vulnerability of allowing someone to see all the ugliness that you don't let the general public see, to really kind of bring someone into your orbit and trusting that they will stay and what you've got is real. And that's why I wrote that song. It's it's a very raw, emotive song. Um, I probably started working on it about 4 or 5 years ago now, but it only recently was finished because I just wasn't ready to go back to it until last year when I finished it and then released it in February. And you know what? It's actually had a really positive response from people online and, streaming wise, people really seem to appreciate the sentiment. And when I've performed it live, people come up to me afterwards and they're like, oh my God, I could feel the fragility in your voice, in the performance. I was there with you. And I'm like, wow, that's really quite powerful.
So, what was it like performing when you first got on? Played at a gig, sung at a gig. What was that experience like for you?
What, just playing a gig in general or playing that song?
A gig in general.
A gig in general, I love performing live. Um, you know what? There was a time when I never thought I'd say that because I used to be really shy at performing. I still am quite shy in my personal life, but performance wise, I would get on stage and I would be holding on to the microphone and my knees would be knocking, my hands would be clammy. I would be so nervous. But the love of performing and the love of music far outweighed any kind of nerves that I had. So I just forced myself to keep doing it. And I'd play in pubs where people weren't really paying attention. I'd be that person singing at the back of the room where people are just having a drink on a Friday night and they're not really talking. They're not really listening to me. They're talking to the mate about work or about family and stuff like that. So I was background noise and I was okay with that because in that space, I learnt what songs I like to sing. I got comfortable with being on stage and my own kind of stage presence. And as my confidence grew in them situations, I'd start like interacting with the audience, especially if they weren't listening to me, because that was where it became fun. If they weren't listening and I'd finished a song, I had a microphone. So I was going, you can clap now. And I'd just leave it there. And people would start being like, oh, okay, oh, yeah. And the more I played them places and the more confident I got, the more I started like branching out to different cities and different, venues and stuff. And my confidence grew from there. Now, when I'm performing, I love performing with my live band because I've handpicked some fantastic musicians to work with me. They are the nicest men. They support me, but they also give me shit. They give me, they rip they rip the mick out of me every single time we're in rehearsal together because I've forgotten my words, I haven't come prepared. And they're like, "What are we doing here, Lorna? We're your band. Like, you've not given us any direction." And I'm like, "I'm sorry." But that being said, they are, so supportive. They're so talented. And I love being on stage with them because I know they've got my back 110%. If I miss my cue, if I miss, if I forget my lyrics, they'll just play the song round and they'll look at each other and they'll be like, "We got you. We'll just carry on. And you'll come back in when you're ready, Lorna, and it's fine." Um, so, and I just love laughing on stage with them. Like, we'll look at each other, and if we've had a rehearsal where, we've a particular part was really tricky, or like I missed the note or something, I'll just look at my guitarist and I'll be like, "Oh, oh, it's coming up to that bit." And that camaraderie on stage just gives me so much joy. But also now, because I'm confident in performing, I love that interaction with an audience as well. So I'll bring them up to speed with, "Oh, well, we did this song in rehearsal, guys, and guess what? I fluffed it, somewhat shocking, but we're okay. We're going to give it another go tonight. Don't worry." I like that kind of interaction with an audience. And, you know, when I played in Birmingham not long ago, just hearing an audience singing back to you is just such a nice feeling. Like, they've really bought into that song, and, they're there with you. They're holding you up, and it's such a great feeling. I am in my element on stage. It's nerve-wracking, still nerve-wracking, but I'm me at my happiest.
So, can you tell me more about your latest single, which released this Friday gone, called "No Good for Me"?
Yes, this is a slight, it's not really central of my lane in terms of music. It's a bit bluesy, it's a bit, power soul. Um I was I think I'd had a really bad day at work because, again, I have a 9 to 5 job. Um Music isn't my sole income at the moment. So, I'd had a really bad day. And I think I'd had, a conversation with some colleagues, and I was just like, this just is really toxic. This is a really bad environment. Like, this is just not good for me. And as soon as I said that to my other half when I got home, I was like, this just isn't good for me. I was like, oh my God. And I wrote that down in my phone. No good for me. This is no good for me. Like, um, and then when I was in the studio, I was telling this, we were kind of looking at ideas that we both had, and, what idea do you want to think about this? And I was like, I wrote something down the other day and I'm still angry about it. So I think I need to capitalize on that anger, and I need to write this song. Don't know what it's going to be like, but yeah, I was in a particular headspace. And no good for me, no good for me. You just no good for me was just like ringing around in my head. And that became the chorus. And then the verses seemed to just write themselves. Like, I'd had that meeting and they were quite condescending, and, but actually, you know what? That's got my attention because I'm better than that. I don't need that. Like, so I wrote it about that. And, I think everyone can probably relate to the fact where they've been in an environment, or, whether it be a relationship or, a friendship or a work situation where actually this is really toxic. I need to remove myself from this. So yeah, that's my version of what no good for me was for. But since I've released it, I've had so many people reach out to me and say, "Oh my God, I love that song. I've just had broken up with my boyfriend because he was no good for me." And someone else be like, "Oh, I've got this like toxic friendship, and actually I've realized I'm better off without them." And I'm like, yes, that is where music is so powerful, because people can relate to it. It might not be the way that I intended it, or the way that the thing that I wrote it about, but actually people will attach their own meanings to it. And I just think that's such a beautiful thing because music is therapy in that way. People will listen to that, and even the instrumentation, we wanted it to be quite aggressive and quite punchy because it is someone basically saying, "I've had enough. No, no more." So the brass that is like driving the chorus, and it's just all very much representative of how I was feeling at that moment. And I'm out of that situation now. So for me, I feel great. And now the song's out, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to go back there.
Bring on the next song that you're going to write. So, can you tell me what's it like being an independent artist for you?
Being an independent artist, it's hard work. But I love it. I wouldn't I wouldn't swap it. But one thing that I do wish people understood more about is how much work I do myself in terms of the promotion of singles, all the design element of the music, the social media interaction. It's not just posting a picture up, it's connecting with promoters, connecting with other musicians that you think you sound similar to, because actually you might want to invite them on tour at some point. And it's being a nice person within the industry as well, because people remember who was nice to them. And I like to spread that positivity online as well. So if I see something that someone's doing, I won't just like it. I'll give it a comment, or I'll send them a direct message, and I'll be like, I really love that cover photo that you picked. Like, what was your thought process behind that? And, being interested in other people's art as well gives me inspiration. So I think it's a hard job. Like, just even to the point of, I work a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. Every evening is music related because I'm either writing songs, I'm either looking online to connect with other artists or promoters or venues or agencies, and festivals at the moment. At the moment, it's festival season coming up, so applications for festivals is like through the roof, and you take a lot of knockbacks, and you've got to be okay with that. You've got to be quite resilient as an independent artist, because no one is fighting your corner more than you. And one thing I always say to people when they're just starting out is you have to really love it, because your patience and your time will be tested, and you will even doubt your own ability sometimes because of that many knockbacks. But you have to really love it to carry on. And I think that's where, from my perspective, I've been doing this for over 10 years now, and relatively still unknown, but I love it. I love the music that I make, and I love the process of creating authentic music. And it's just a bonus when people reach out to you and say that it's connected with them, or they really, resonated with a particular message, or even just an image that I put up, or just me singing someone else's song, a cover. People will reach out and go, "Oh, I loved that version," or "That really made me feel this way." And that connection is really powerful. And I never take it for granted when people reach out to me with that kind of message, because, it's people don't commonly do it anymore. People spend a lot of time scrolling. So for someone to take the time and go, actually, I really liked that, I will always acknowledge that, and I'll always respond, because I think it takes a lot for people to step outside of their comfort zone and message someone. So why would you not give them the courtesy of responding?
So, have you got any upcoming gigs coming soon?
Yes, I have. I'm performing at a new festival in Lichfield in Birmingham area. Um, on the 24th of May. It's called Roots Festival. I'll be posting about it on my socials. I'm also in talks with some promoters for some festivals, and also a couple of gigs, one in Leicester and one in London in July, August time. And then I will be back at the Jam House in Birmingham in September.
Exciting things coming for you. So, can you tell my listeners where can they find you on your social media?
Yeah, I'm on all social media, all streaming platforms. Lorna Dea, Lorna Lorna Dea, and D. People always think it's the letter D or it's Dee. The way I like to tell people to remember it is it's Lorna Dea, like a cup of tea.
So thank you for letting me chat to you today.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
Goodbye. Goodbye. Bye.